Seconds from Disaster. Look What We Can Do by SomethingTouchesBack. The Tristal was in uncharted space, and pushing at full burn with our Locaean frigate caught us. The Tristal was an older model bulk freighter, unarmed, and with its holds packed with Tlin refugees fleeing the Locaean massacre of Krolux. We stood no chance. As the frigate closed, our captain fled to the nearest star, a lone yellow dwarf, hoping that dropping out of faster-than-light in the gravity well might throw off the frigate's aim for just a few moments more. It almost worked. The frigate disabled their FTL drive, but they themselves overshot our position and would take many hours to work their way back to us in sublight. When we dropped into sublight deep within the gravity well, we found ourselves only minutes away from a rocky planet, replete with oceans, continents, and a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. We might have tried for a landing if the whole thing weren't surrounded by an impressive cloud of artificial space junk. Clearly there were locals already here, and the locals had been sending stuff into orbit for quite some time, with little thought as to how they were going to clean it up. We maneuvered as far into that mess as we could, but our freighter was several times larger than the largest in-orbit object, other than that ridiculously disproportionate moon, and would not stay hidden for long. It was tragic to think that when the Locaean got done harvesting us, they would probably turn their attention to this still planet-bound new species. We sat as quietly as we could in the trash field of the third planet. We did not dare emit a signal to try and contact the locals, but we did listen in on their electromagnetic emissions. The captain speculated that at their apparent level of development, they might be able to manufacture the parts we need to fix our FTL engines, if we had enough time. But we didn't. It took the Locaean frigate many rotations of the planet below us to check for us amongst all of the moons of the four big gas giants, and amongst the massive asteroids separating the gas giants from the four inner rocky worlds. But at last, they made their way to our hiding spot. Then the locals showed interest in us. We detected a launch of a, get this, chemically powered rocket sending a payload the size of a landing craft our way. This planet had probably circled its sun almost 1,000 times since the last time we Tlin had launched a chemical rocket. Unarmed as we were, all we could do was watch as the payload closed from our stern, while our Locaean frigate closed from the side. We detected when the frigate, still quite far away, started powering up its secondary energy turrets. Clearly meant to vent us rather than to destroy the freighter entirely, the better to harvest our remains. But before the frigate could fire, the payload from the planet started, well, blurring is the best way I could describe it. It was both there and not there. Simultaneously, we detected a very slight FTL signature. The frigate must have detected it too, and probably thought that we had made repairs on our engines. The frigate fired at our stern, apparently from their distance not seeing the payload. The energy beam washed over the blurry payload and the payload jumped. Not far, just a few of its own lengths. Probably not noticeable from the frigate, but we saw it. Then the payload turned toward the frigate. That got the frigate's attention, because the acceleration was again achieved by very bright chemical rockets. The payload had just started the blurring thing again, when the frigate fired again. This time, obviously at the payload. The energy wash blinded our sensors briefly, but when we could see again, the payload was significantly closer to the frigate. This time the Locaeans weren't messing around. They brought their big main turret to bear, and fired an energy blast that would have vaporized a good chunk of the Tristal, had that turret been aimed at us. When our sensors cleared, the payload was gone. But so was the Locaean frigate. All that was left was a spatial distortion characteristic of an FTL transit interpolation event. With our Locaean frigate gone, we were finally able to establish contact with the local species. Humans, they call themselves. Or Terrans, or a multitude of other things. Apparently they're still working it out amongst themselves. The humans gave us a home, and in exchange we gave them our ship, and explained as best we could how the different systems worked, in the process advancing their technology probably 100 of their years. It was during one of these discussions that a human researcher going by the name of Bob told me the human version of the Locaean frigate event.
See, our faster-than-light prototype had been in development for years and was just about ready to test in the vacuum of space when you folks showed up. So we thought it would be a good idea to launch our prototype and give you a demonstration.
Sort of a look what we can do moment?
Exactly. We thought if we demonstrated FTL, then you might let us into the club.
So, you've never tried this prototype before, and you think it's a good idea to bring it right up next to our ship to turn it on for the first time?
Well, we wanted to make sure you had a front row seat. We were pretty sure it wouldn't blow a hole in space.
Well, it fucking well did blow a hole in space. Fortunately, it was the space occupied by their Locaeans and not by us. What went wrong?
It's kind of embarrassing, really. We had to scale back the reactor to fit inside the demonstrator. The payload, as you call it, and we ended up not having quite enough power for an FTL jump. Instead, the warp field around the demonstrator just went into this oscillation where we phased in and out of subspace very quickly.
That's why the demonstrator appeared to blur?
Exactly. Then the Arlocanes fired on us. Of course, we didn't know they were trying to destroy us, we thought they were trying to help us. Their energy weapon provided just enough more power to allow us to complete a short jump. Remember, we had no idea that you and the other ship were different species, or that you were fighting each other. We thought you had just brought two ships.
I shook my head, cresting incredulity. A frigate fires a weapon at you, and you mistake it for help.
Hey, it worked! Anyway, Major Myers and Kim, those were the test pilots aboard the demonstrator, reported that they were going to try to maneuver closer to the second ship to get more power and do a bigger jump. Power falls off with the square of the distance, you know.
Not entirely true with that weapon, but please continue.
Whatever. When the Arlocanes switched to their other energy projector...
Their main battle turret?
Yeah, that thing. Anyway, that provided a bit more boost than Myers and Kim anticipated, and they ended up jumping directly into an interpolation with the frigate. 2 good test pilots died in that little snafu.
And 5,000 Tlin refugees lived because of it. Me included. We shall honor their names. So here we are, 5,000 Tlin, and several billion humans learning to live together, and one failed attempt at, look what we can do. The humans managed to invent a shield that could protect a ship of any size from the Arlocane's strongest weapon, and developed an FTL interpolation missile against which the Arlocanes have no defense. Combine that with the spaceship technology that we just gave the humans, and well, look out Arlocanes. The Tlin are coming back, and bringing our new friends.